Pilots of Reddit, what interesting things happen during a flight that only the crew knows about? We will not only transport dead bodies, but also live transplants, like hearts and lungs. I particularly like the live transplants because we get to cut to the front of the line for takeoff, and we get all the shortcuts to our destination. Your like and subscription will really help my channel. Flight attendants cannot do the job of a pilot, but in theory, anyone can land a normally functioning airplane given clear instructions from the ground. Sometimes the passengers may be having a nice quiet flight in the back, while the pilots are up front dodging thunderstorms and yelling their heads off. Tip for those who get motion sickness: try not to move your head around. Pilots move their eyes instead of their heads to look at the instruments in the flight deck. Also try to sit in a seat over the wing. This area of the plane doesn't rotate as much during climbs and descents. There's a special frequency called GARD that all aircraft are supposed to monitor. It's for emergencies, or for when an aircraft ends up on a wrong frequency and the controllers need to get contact with them to change them to the right frequency. It's full of pilots meowing at each other and people accidentally asking for gate assignments and making other radio calls. Pilot here, we only get paid when the doors are closed and the pushback has commenced. If we're delayed or sitting with the door open, we're just as annoyed as you are. At altitude, we're constantly in contact with air traffic control and change to different center frequencies. We're also doing fuel checks to make sure the fuel burn isn't abnormal, dodging weather, and probably bitching about scheduling. Pilots are constantly talking on the phone, watching videos, and reading articles on the internet, even Reddit. Prisoners are transported on commercial airline flights sometimes. Law enforcement officers are escorting them. Armed law enforcement officers on board sometimes, not escorting anyone. We can fly faster to get to our destination earlier if a crew member needs to get home. Chatting or joking with ATC if frequency isn't busy. A pilot may accidentally make an announcement on the controller frequency instead of the public address frequency. The entire airport then laughs about it. Yes, the meowing on guard, as well as other nonsense. We try to get away from the turbulence, but it's not always possible, and we can't predict it and can't see it, can only make educated guesses as to where it may be. On days with low visibility and generally lousy weather, we may only have a few minutes to decide whether to divert. Don't worry, we have enough fuel to do so. By law, we must have enough fuel on board to make an approach to our destination, circle, fly to an alternate airport, and land there. And even then, there must be another 45 minutes of fuel on board. The iPad you may see us in the cockpit has all our manuals, approach plates, maps, checklists, etc. Basically, almost everything we need. It really is incredible. Just hope that they both don't decide to brick themselves at the same time in the air. Yes, there isn't a single cloud in the sky where we are now. Meanwhile, our destination is encompassed by a massive thunderstorm. We don't like being late either, but we're paid to deliver living passengers. There's a chance your flight could be a pilot's very first flight in an actual jet. He could be fresh out of training, out of the simulator, and actually flying that jet aircraft. Scary, right? Although this pilot could probably explain every system of this plane in detail, unlike the guys who have been flying for a long time. And don't worry, he will have additional pilots who will instruct him on the flight. The autopilot can fly for a majority of the flight. We have to at least take off and land. Autoland isn't used for everyday normal operation. We can manually fly the entire flight without ever engaging the autopilot. We sometimes do this. It is often recommended to maintain piloting skills. Not sure if it's been mentioned already. I was learning to be cabin crew at college, and in the event that someone dies on board, the cabin crew make it less obvious that they have passed. Put glasses on them, maybe a hat. Essentially dress them up as subtle as possible to not alert and/or panic the other passengers. First of all the comments about pilots making cat sounds and Chewbacca noises is 100% true. Also, whenever someone leaves an area and switches frequencies, they yell "see ya," and then a dozen other pilots will key up yelling "see ya" one after another. Also, the things that scare passengers don't faze the pilots one bit. We don't give a shit about turbulence or having to do a go-around. The things I don't like are things you generally won't know about: thunderstorm dodging, microburst alerts, ice, maintenance issues, etc. An instructor told me that he and his training buddy both fell asleep for about 45 minutes at the same time while gaining hours for licensing. The plane was in complete autopilot mode, clear skies, zero turbulence. They both swore if they ever flew again, they would hand off to sleep, like handing off the controls. Edit. He told me that after both of them awoke, they were really terrified. Neither had no idea what had happened, even if anything had happened. Luckily, it was over the Gulf of Mexico and at a low enough altitude where it wouldn't impact commercial airliners. Their trim was set before the nap, so they only gained a couple hundred feet of altitude. But rest assured, each were not happy with themselves. Your like and subscription will really help my channel.